What up, y'all? So there are new cards that just dropped. It's a little mini set for Across the Timeways, so it's within the Across the Timeways set. So if you open Across the Timeways packs, you'll get them. I've actually found that I've bought some Across the Timeways packs yesterday and today, and majority of the cards I got from them were from this mini set. So I don't know if they kind of favor the new cards in the probabilities of that, but 72 new cards, lots of cool stuff. I'm going to go through most of them and just kind of see how it seems like they'll impact the metagame based on what I've seen, but also what I'm suspecting. If you do this filter for new cards, it'll bring them all up for you. So that's an easy way to go through and find them in here if you don't want to actually like buy the mini set bundle in the shop. So Death Knight has some interesting stuff, but nothing that I think is really going to make a huge difference. Like imbuing your hero power for Death Knight doesn't seem very good. Your first undead you play each turn gains one attack. It's a passive hero power, so normally those have to be very good to be playable. Yeah, same thing here. I mean, it's an efficiently cost minion. 4/3 with Reborn for 4 is something, but the Death Rattle is fairly irrelevant in my opinion. So Death Knight doesn't really get many tools, but they were already a very good deck, so it makes sense that they wouldn't give them too much. Now the Demon Hunter cards, I'm a fan of some of them. Like this guy seems like he's got potential. So one less for each minion that died this turn. So if you like infestation, throw some stingers at something, kill a couple guys. Cool thing with infestation is if you shoot some guys with the stingers, so 2 damage, say you kill 2 minions, you get your 2 grub, you attack those grubs, say you either they die alone and just chump, that's 4, but if those trade with something, that's 6, and this guy costs 1. So you can pay 4, essentially you can pay 5 to deal 8 damage total with infestation, plus pay 1 for a 6/5 that draws you 2 cards. So I think this guy has some serious potential with Demon Hunter, but he's got to fit into the right core deck. So I think that shifts the way that we're going to be playing Demon Hunter. Press the Advantage I like a lot. I think it's a deceptively powerful card. People look at it, they go 2 mana, 1 damage. Doesn't seem very good. +1 attack, interesting. Draw a card is where it gets very interesting. The armor, pretty irrelevant. But 1 damage, essentially 2 damage and draw a card for 2 mana is pretty good in my opinion. And the armor is just like icing on the cake, a little extra bonus. This guy seems cute, but I doubt it'll be very relevant. You would have to get, I think, other tools in Demon Hunter for this to be very good. So we'll see if it sees play, but I don't know if it's going to matter. Spending corpses in Demon Hunter is interesting. I think that'll open up some other strategies. So I don't know. I mean, 5 mana for a 4-cost minion with the potential of getting 3 4-cost minions, that could be pretty good. So you're looking at probably between 9 and 16 power for 5 mana, which could be relevant. And this guy's actually really interesting. Being a dragon, it does open up some other possibilities. I think dragons are very relevant in standard right now. So if you've got, whelp into peddler into something else, and then this guy on 5, I think it could help you have like a really aggressive couple of turns if you have a good start. So a lot of potential with this guy, but it is legendary, so obviously less potential to draw him. So we'll see what happens there. Druid is interesting. One thing I do like, I will note, they're doing the hybrid cards again, where you can play them in multiple classes, which I think gives different classes kind of like an overlap in power level. So if this is both a Druid and a Demon Hunter card, then the Druid is getting some of the things that Demon Hunter normally does, and the Demon Hunter is getting something that Druid normally does. So it's an interesting overlap in like the normal type of abilities or strengths of one class carried over into another. Acceleration Aura, very interesting. I like this a lot for Paladin. It feels like a Druid card where you get an extra temporary mana crystal, but the aura part of it being a holy spell is the overlap with Paladin. So I think this will probably make a bigger difference in Druid than Paladin, but it's a nice little tool for Paladin to have, especially with, like I played against a guy yesterday that went turn 2 Acceleration Aura, turn 3 Cardboard Golem, so you get an extra turn out of your auras, and then just continued having extra mana every turn for a couple more turns. So it definitely has potential. I think Druid is going to take advantage of this stuff because whenever Druid can ramp, things can get out of hand pretty quickly. And I think Druid has been missing some pieces for ramp lately, so this should help them kind of fill that gap. This guy's all right. Attack or health of all minions to 1 seems good. It is a Druid and Paladin card, so you could go like this, change the health to 1 and then consecration, so it's like an expensive equality, but changing attack to 1 is very relevant. I think for Druid that's helpful because that does give you a way to like calm the enemy and just kind of get through to later turns. If you got like, it's almost like a glorified Bob. You know, you can't freeze everybody, but if you hold them off for a turn just so that you can get to something else, Ziliax, Seismopod, whatever, just something bigger could have some use. I'm not a big fan of Trents. They're fine, but it could have potential. There's always kind of fringy, like Trent type decks. Hunter has some cool stuff. Fill your hand, then empty it, and your reward is this guy. I had someone play this against me recently, and it was fascinating. They did empty my hand with their death rattle. I think they played the minion that triggers a death rattle and just emptied my hand without having to kill the guy. So I was in a pretty bad spot that game, as you would expect. But seems a little fringe. It's hard to tell if it's going to be that good, but we'll find out. And I also think that quest is going to be difficult to attain, to fill your hand and then to empty it. So you got to go from 3 cards starting to 10 cards, so +7, and then -10 to empty the hand again. So there's ways to do it that I'm sure are cute, but I don't think it's going to be super relevant. This could have some serious potential. It's only a 1-cost minion that you're going to get with a Dark Gift, but Dark Gifts have been, in my opinion, kind of defining the format. Creature of Madness, Nightmare Lord, stuff like that have had a huge impact on the metagame. I think Dark Gifts, Elise, and Ziliax are probably the biggest defining cards in the metagame, as far as I can tell. Yeah, not a big fan of this. This one is very interesting. It's Paladin and Hunter. 3 damage to an enemy for 4 mana is kind of iffy. If it dies, giving a random friendly minion +3/+3. I'm not a huge fan of the card, but I think it does have potential, so definitely be open to that being a playable card. And this one seems okay. Let's see, Mage. This guy's interesting. I'm sure that'll be probably relevant in combo decks or something. I've already seen this played in Dragon Warrior because it's a Dragon Mage hybrid. I'm not sure it's very good in Dragon Warrior. You do have like Sanguine Depth, so you can poke it and get spell damage +2, then your Precursory Strike and Shadow Flame Suffusion is going to be a little bit more deadly, so it might help with like end of game reach if you're like, oh, I just need a couple more points to finish them off, or if there's problematic minions, but I'm not sure it's going to be super great in Dragon Warrior. It is a 1 mana 1/3, and 1 mana 1/3s tend to have a big impact on the early turns of the game. They're a lot harder to kill, and I think there's a huge difference between 2 and 3 health in this format, especially considering like the main thing that kills 3 health minions right now is that what's it called? I forget what it's called, but it's the Death Knight spell that deals 2 damage and then summons a leech. That'll obviously kill a 3 health minion, but there's not a lot of other options outside of that are very efficient that you can also do in the early game. What else we got for Mage? Yeah, Lifesteal for Mage is interesting. That's always helpful if they're trying to combo and just buy some more time to get to whatever they're doing, whether it be Protoss or otherwise. 3 damage to a minion if it dies. Return this to your hand at the end of the turn. Phenomenal card. So this card is definitely worth trying, definitely worth just fiddling with. If you're doing that twice, that's just phenomenal value. So anything more than twice, you're just getting very far ahead, I'm sure. I'm not super happy with Infinite. This is something that I try to handle with grace. No, the infinite stuff I think is always bad for the game. Anything infinite, I come from Magic the Gathering where infinite combos are galore, and infinite anything normally is just it's cool for competitive players because we always love doing crazy things that are out of the bounds of finite. But Infinity is normally very bad for like the fringe or casual players because it helps push people out of feeling like they had any say in the game. Whenever something's infinite, I've always found in any kind of game that it makes people feel as though they don't have a say in the matter and they couldn't really do anything, so what's the point of playing? And it kind of pushes more players out of the game. That's just from an R&D perspective, something I've noticed with multiple games, especially Magic the Gathering, but now seeing it a lot more in Hearthstone. So Paladin, I like that we have this guy. That should be very interesting. It's what, a hunter, yeah, hunter paladin hybrid. So that'll probably see some play. Hard to say in what, like, I don't know that that's good enough for like aggro paladin. It could be, but it doesn't seem great. It's hard to tell. It could be more of like a we could see more of like mid range paladin, where we just have more efficient minions. Because like this guy, Mother Duck. Um, I don't know. Maze Guide comes to mind. Like there's some pretty efficient minions that you can play in like an aggressive paladin deck. So this could fit the build, but there's going to be a lot of testing needed. I'm going to do what I can to try and put together as many of these new cards and just kind of put together some random deck lists. There's already stuff going around though, so if you're on like HS Replay or any of the deck list websites, you can definitely find stuff. Priest has some interesting stuff. Wings of Eternity seems like a fantastic card. Anytime you get a card from the past, it normally can disrupt the power level of the game, and Dark Gifts, like I said, kind of defining for the metagame. Eternal Firebolt being a Priest card also, in addition to Mage, is very relevant, but this guy I think is going to be very good. For all time, is going to give Priest a way to efficiently answer minions, and we could see some more like Priest control decks. I think there's also a big difference between 4 and 5 attack. So like Windpeak Worm immediately comes to mind. There's a lot of stuff in Dragon Paladin that gets up to 4 attack, but that breach into 5 attack makes a huge difference for the spells that you can use to get rid of them, other ways that you can answer them with other minions. So it's a very interesting card. Almost definitely going to see some serious play. And this guy, I'm sure, will enable some silly combos that are going to be fringe, but if you want to have fun, definitely experiment with this guy. This is the one that I've seen the most effect on the metagame with. So Eventuality, Jagged Edge of Time, these guys make it so you can imbue your hero power. For Rogue, that means... There we go. For Rogue, it means you can get a random minion from another class, and it costs 1 less. So, and the rewind is really relevant. So as you continue to imbue your hero power, it costs an additional 1 less. So I've played against a bunch of these decks. Like the first day that this came out, which was I think yesterday, I was playing on standard just for fun, kind of tweaking with some decks, tinkering with things, and I played against like 5 of these decks. So I think we're gonna see the imbue Rogue. I think it's called Ashamain Rogue is like the deck title if you want to look it up online. That one seems like it's going to have a big effect. Plus, 2 damage, imbue your hero power for 2. Seems pretty relevant. So you can do it early, follow it up with a turn 3, and then there's other stuff like the 4 mana guy. I'm forgetting his name, but he Taunt, Divine Shield, 4 mana 4/4, very efficient. There's the 2 mana guy, the 2/3. So there's a lot of imbue effects that will help Rogue with this. So they get to the point where they're just paying 1 and they get a card that costs like 4 or 5 less, and they can rewind even if they don't like the option. So seems pretty solid. And then this guy will probably be relevant in combo. I love when Rogue has spell damage, because that'll open up some good options. It's also a Shaman card, so that'll be probably potentially relevant. Hard to say. Shaman also gets for all time, so we could be open to like Shaman control decks, but I think that's a lot less likely than Priest control decks. This guy is very interesting. 4 mana 4/4 rush is cool. Combo and overload. Wind Fury's great. Immune is great. So that could see some play in like mid-range Shaman. It's a very efficient minion, and rush with mid-range Shaman is very powerful. Especially if you play Flight of the Firehawk or bird watching or something like that. It's not going to get hit by Turbulus because it's not a Battlecry minion, but it does have some serious potential for play there. And it's a dragon. Dragons are very relevant right now. For all we know, we'll see like Shaman dragons. I'm not normally a big fan of stuff that interacts with overload, like costing one less for each overloaded mana crystal. Sure, but then you have to overload mana crystals in the first place, so you have to put yourself at a disadvantage in order to gain this advantage. So I'm not a big fan of stuff like that normally. Voodoo Temple seems cute, but whatever. More dragons. So I've already been seeing the combination of Rafam, Shreds of Time minions, and dragons. So they'll go like turn 1 Whelp, turn 2 Peddler, or they can even go turn 2 the 2 mana 4/4. Sometimes it's a 5/5 because of the Whelp. So this guy just being a turn 3 dragon. And yeah, it's got a downside, set the cost of a random card in your hand to infinity. Sure, but sacrificing one card for a 3 mana 5/5 or potentially bigger could be pretty powerful. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some like really aggressive Warlock decks, especially the way that they, in that last card change where they changed like Cardboard Golem and some other stuff, they made the Rafams better. So that to me told me that Rafams were better than Blizzard was thinking they were getting credit for. So this just kind of helps that strategy a little bit, at least in that combination deck I was just mentioning with the dragons. Yeah, the Warlock has a much better time of being able to do this. I think that's much more relevant for them. Not so much for Hunter. Yeah, not a big fan of that card again. And then End Time Survivor is interesting. I think it could have potential. Probably more in... I think it's probably equally in Warlock and Warrior. It's going to cost, if you do your hero power with Warlock and then play this guy, you're paying 7 mana for an 8/9, which is still efficiently costed. It's essentially 7 mana, 8/9, draw a card because of the hero power and take 2 damage. But it is Taunt, which I think is very relevant for this. But then Warrior is where things get very interesting because you've got Twisted Time Seer, which, like I said, with Sanguine Depths could be relevant. Dimensional Weaponsmith I like. So you give all minions and weapons in your hand +2 attack. Dragon Warrior, not really playing weapons, but the minion part of it's very relevant. It could make, for example, your Whelp of the Infinite have some relevant attack. So that you not only can just take out annoying minions, but also be dealing damage to their face in a reasonable way. And it's a 3 mana 2/5. 5 is a big thing in terms of health. There's a lot of 4 attack minions, so having 5 health means it'll probably stick around longer, get some better value out of it. Eternal Toil, interesting, but I'm not sure super relevant. Sure, very efficiently costed, but I don't know. I could see this guy potentially seeing some play in some Warrior decks, but more likely I think it's in Warlock. But if for example, if Dragon Warrior adopts some weapons, there's not very many good weapons to be able to adopt. But between this guy and this, if you're playing like turn 3 Dimensional Weaponsmith, turn 4 weapon, turn 5 this guy after attacking something and taking damage, it's a reasonable curve. It's worth considering. But Bitter End, I think, has some serious potential. At 5 mana, it is a lot, but freezing a minion and its neighbors, so you're 5 mana freeze 3, and then potential to get rid of any of them if they're damaged. That could be very relevant, at least for tempo. But it is a little overcosted if you're going to do it in something like Dragon Warrior, so it strikes me as something that'll more likely see play in Mage. Kind of hard to tell. And then lastly, the neutral minions. So Prescient Slitherdrake is the big one. This is already seeing play in Dragon Warrior. A very strong card. 4 mana 6/9 with elusive if you're holding a dragon. That's just very efficiently costed. So if they have good momentum in the early turns of the game, Whelp, Peddler, Weaponsmith, something like that, and then you go this guy on 4, pretty hard to argue. And I think it's, I don't know, it could be annoying if you got to play it for 7. But I think now there are enough dragons that triggering something that requires a dragon in your hand is so much easier. So I think a lot of potential there. Omen of the End, I don't think is very good. This guy's interesting. I think there's potential. I don't know that it's what Dragon Warrior wants per se, because by the time you get to turn 8, you want to be like Grommash, Dracorex, something that's going to kind of end the game. This guy will give you a decent advantage, but if you're already ahead, you might as well win the game rather than just destroying the resources. So not sure if it'll see play. It could be something that's seen in more control decks, like I mentioned, like a priest control deck. So getting this kind of value, if you're already a little bit ahead on card advantage, could be really good for some control decks, but I'm not sure it's going to be what like aggro or mid-range is really going to want. Kind of hard to say. This guy could be okay, but you got to play more rewind cards. He gives you a rewind card, but not really sure how powerful that is until we see it get played. But normally legendary minions, if they're giving you cards and giving you a static ability, that could be relevant, so it's worth considering. And then this guy, like I said, control decks. So fully heal your hero for 9 mana could be very relevant. Skipping your next turn also could be very relevant. So I could see some games where you're like, oh, I just need to like gain some health and then I can regain traction with a control deck. This guy could do that. Filling your board with dragons gives you a little bit of potential to come back after skipping a turn, but I'm a little torn on this card. Fully healing your hero, super powerful. It's just hard to tell if skipping your next turn is going to be something that cancels out the advantage of healing your hero. So definitely watch this card. I may try and play this in something, but at this point I'm not a huge fan of control. I think there's a lot of really good aggro and mid-range decks, especially with some of these new cards. So there could be a lot of different things that we see happening in the standard metagame. And again, this is all in the shop, so definitely check out that mini set. It's like 2,000 gold, I think, to get all the normal cards. It's funny because I just spent like almost 1,000 gold over the past like day just before this came out, buying packs and stuff. So I was like, oh, what timing? But yeah, highly recommend that if you just get the bundle, you'll have all this stuff and be able to get playing with it. Otherwise, yeah, you can open it in packs or craft the cards. I've already crafted some of them, and Dragon Warrior is one of the big ones I'm going to be testing, in addition to a bunch of other stuff like those cards I mentioned. So check out the other videos on the YouTube. I hate asking because like it always feels so disingenuous, but like and follow and comment and tell me what you think. What cards are going to affect the metagame? I hate all that like YouTube algorithm feeding type of stuff, but it does make a huge difference for the channel. So if you guys are already following, serious thank you. I appreciate that a lot. It tells the YouTube algorithm, that dreaded god of algorithms, that people want to see more of this, and it puts my stuff in front of other people. So it makes a big difference. Very appreciated. But I do have on the channel a good mix between like fun decks and competitive decks. I'm always trying to test interesting things that like feed that creative muscle of deck building, because I believe that's kind of a lost art. It seems like most people just pull a deck from online and just play what they think professional players play. They play what they think they should play. But if you never actually test things out yourself, and nobody ever is like doing things outside of what the norm is, then we're not going to see much expansion of the metagame outside of what pro players or high level players dictate are good cards. And there's been times where playing some of these, fun, silly decks, that I found things that were actually decent. I haven't taken anything from like obscurity to tier 1, standard. That's obviously very difficult because of the amount of data and deck lists and people that are playing constantly. But there are things that I found that were much more relevant in standard than I anticipated. Like Imbue Dragons, like a Dragon Paladin deck. Less focused on Imbue and more focused on the dragons, was very interesting. Searing Reflection Paladin, I've been doing that series for a while. I'm at like part 10 of that video series, just kind of tweaking, little bits here and there. And it's been a lot of fun along the way. I think it helps show people that you can actually work on decks and make progress. But if that's not your thing, tons of competitive decks, like Dragon Warrior, Aggro Paladin, Murlocs when it was relevant, all those types of decks. Aggressive Demon Hunter, Cliff Dive Demon Hunter is a big favorite on the ladder right now. Just, try to have a good mix, because I do this for fun, but I also, I like to make legend. So it's a good mix. But definitely check out the rest of the videos, and I appreciate you guys watching. Peace and love, guys.